Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off, online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of On Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender Mike Cosentino. Mike is currently playing in the Federal Prospects Hockey League for the Columbus River Dragons. Mike also earned a call-up to the ECHL's Worcester Railers this season, along with playing for both the Columbus River Dragons and the Delaware Thunder this season. Mike played his junior hockey days in the USBHL Empire and the EHL before playing 1 year of NCAA Division III hockey with King's College and 2 years with Newman University before turning pro. So it's going to be a really fun episode. So welcome to the show, Mike Cosentino.
Hey, Jack, how are you?
I'm doing good. Got out of class. Now talking to you. So nothing better, but how have you been?
I'm good, man. It's sunny and 75 out here in Columbus, so I'm doing pretty well.
Can't complain. It's like 45 over here, so you're enjoying the warmer weather than what I am experiencing right now.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but what do you do during like the off days and like when you get out of practice?
Well, usually we go to the gym, most of the guys. We don't have team workouts, but team workouts per se, but we'll go individually. I spend a lot of time on the golf course, I have to say. Like, I've been hitting the links at least once a week pretty consistently with some of the other guys. So, there's the Chattahoochee River. Some of the guys will go down there. Me and my girlfriend will go down there sometimes. And there's a little downtown Columbus. It's really nice down here. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, and like you're hitting the golf course. And what do you say? You're a good golfer, a decent golfer, or a pretty terrible golfer?
I like to think I'm pretty decent, but for some reason, the Columbus River Dragons, I'm confident that we have the best team of golfers in professional hockey. I mean, everybody I go out with is smoking me. Like Austin Doe, he's a forward on our team, and the kid's like, he should be on the PGA Tour. He's ridiculous. So when I play with these guys, I feel a lot less good at golf than I typically do when I'm back home with my friends. But I like to think I'm okay.
Yeah, that's what we all think. We all think that we're at least somewhat decent, and then when we play against better competition, we just get smoked. But
Yeah, exactly.
that's the fun of it. It's just going out there, just being with the boys, and just shooting some golf balls.
Absolutely, man. It's a fun time. No matter what you shoot, any day in the golf course is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is like your best part of your golf game, like your drives, your mid-range, your putter, your putts, like what chipping, like what's the best part of your game?
I'd probably say my drives. I can hit the ball pretty far, and I actually have decent accuracy with it. I made a tweak this summer to my golf game a little bit. My buddy Danny Klakowski, I'll give him a shout out here. He's a full-time golfer, golfs in college, and he kind of helped me tweak my game a little bit. So, my drive's pretty good. I can hit over 300 yards pretty consistently, but I mean, once I get down there near the green, I need a lot of work. So
that's so funny. But at least you're tweaking it and it's improving. Because like mine, like I've definitely improved, but like the first like probably 7 years of my golf career, it just sliced to the right every single time. And then like I'd have that one perfect right down the middle, and then I'd get overconfident, and then the next shot, what's gonna happen, it's gonna slice right again. And
yeah,
that's just how it goes.
did you play baseball growing up by chance?
Yeah, I did play baseball.
Yeah, well, that's the reason most players, like hockey players that have a slice, it's from baseball because everything in baseball is opening your hips up, bringing your right elbow down. Golf, it's the opposite. You want to keep the left. It's like a totally different swing. So the baseball swing is kind of it's contagious in a bad way for the golf game.
Yeah, and you just gotta like overthink overthink about it, and just like try to like keep yourself like in tight instead of just going out and reaching for it and opening up your hips and everything. But my chipping game's the best part, so at least if I get in trouble, I can chip.
Okay, that's a good skill to have. It's very important.
Oh yeah, and then sometimes when I get on the green, it just depends on the day. Honestly, could 2-putt it, 1-putt it, could 5-putt it some days.
Oh yeah, I was on in two on a par 5 at the club that we play at in Columbus. I forget what the name is. Maple Ridge, actually, right in the hat right there. Really nice golf course. We get a rate and everything. And I was on in 2 and I ended up bogeying. So if you add that up, that's pretty bad. I mean, I had putted it all the way past the pin. It was the whole, So it's definitely something I need to work on.
Putting's a little bit of a mess for both of us, but hey, we will get better. We will get better.
We will, Jack. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I want to take this time to get into like your youth hockey a little bit here before going into juniors, college, and then pro. So like, what was like youth hockey like for you growing up, and like more importantly, like what made you start playing the game of hockey, and like how old were you?
I was 6 when I started skating and playing hockey for the first time. Primarily what started it was my dad. He didn't play hockey. He was a baseball and a football player, played a little bit of hockey, but where he grew up in New Jersey back in the 60s, like they didn't have organized hockey. So he was pretty much baseball and football. But he used to love going to Rangers games, and he was a big New York Rangers fan. And he exposed me and my brother to hockey, all the sports really, at a young age. And hockey was just something that I got the hockey bug early on, and I kind of ran with it. I was a forward from age 6 to age 9. And then at age 9, my dad finally gave in to me wanting to become a goalie because I had been nagging him. I was like, Dad, please let me be a goalie. I want to be a goalie. And he really wanted to make sure I was legitimate with it because, goalie gear is not cheap. So you don't want to just, you want to be a goalie, go buy the gear. And then, oh, wait, I don't want to do it.
And do it for like a year and then be done.
Yeah, no. So he wanted, and he also wanted to make sure that I got the good skating technique in as a forward and everything, which I think is very important, to develop that first. And then, after that, it's all history.
Yeah. So like what drew you to the goaltending position?
I'd say to be honest, when I was a kid, what initially drew me was I didn't like getting off the ice. Like I always hated that. And I feel like that's a lot of goalies, probably you even yourself might feel the same way. Like I hated getting off the ice. And I remember being on the bench, this is like house league. I was like 7 years old. And I remember looking at our goalie and I remember thinking like, that's so cool. Like he never has to get off the ice. Like he's always on the ice. He's always in the net. He's always part of the spotlight. And that just kind of being under the spotlight the whole time kind of drew me to the position. And in football and baseball, I was a pitcher in baseball and I was a quarterback in football. I played football up until high school. So you kind of look at it, I have a knack for the spotlight positions. I never liked playing outfield in baseball. I always liked being involved in every play type thing.
Yeah, I'm like the same way. Like for baseball, I was catcher. So like
same thing. Yeah,
it's like technically the same thing because you're always like the center of attention along with the pitcher because you're getting literally every ball that's coming towards you. Like every single pitch, it's coming towards you, and you're just in the action. And then same thing with goaltending. Like you're in the game for 60 minutes unless those weird times where you get yanked or pulled or stuff like that. But you're on the ice the entire 60 minutes and you just don't have to leave because I I would keep my shifts pretty long when I was a forward, just because I
Me
didn't want to
too.
get off the ice, and you just gotta love being out there.
No, me too. It's funny, even if I go and play like open hockey in the summer or men's league or something with like a buddy, and I'll play out occasionally, and I take the longest shifts, and the guys get so mad, and it's like I forget, like I don't want to. This is why I didn't do this,
Yeah.
because I don't want to come off. So
Yeah, and like when I would do that, like the guys, like since they're like older than me, they're like, yeah, you could just stay out there for as long as
oh
you
yeah,
want, because and give
oh
us
yeah.
as much rest as we need. So I'm like out there for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, sometimes whole period, sometimes just depending on how many players we have,
Oh
and
yeah, I
just
love playing with the old
yeah.
guys. I love when they say, "Hey, I can't do it. Take the shift." I love that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too, and like I still love scoring goals, even though I'm a goalie. Like when I do play out, like you love scoring goals, and being a goalie like actually makes it like a little bit easier, because you know like all the spots and everything. So like you can rip and snipe a lot more.
100%, man. I not to toot my own horn, but I actually play pretty decently when I play out, and I surprise people because like my technique's not that great because I don't do it consistently,
Yeah,
but I do score like weird goals, and people are like, they're like, wow, you find a way, and it's just like same thing as you said, like you know what catches a goalie off guard, you know what
yeah,
what to look for, so that definitely is a benefit to us, yeah.
yeah. And there's this one game over the winter, I think, where I got like 5 goals, and it's just my fifth goal just dangled the entire team, went coast to coast, buried a top shelf bar down ski.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
those are the
that.
best ones when you are a player skating out, is like the bar downs, but you hate it as a goalie when they go bar down.
100%. And same thing. You love a glove save when you're in the net, but then when you're on the other side of it, you hate it. That's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fun. It's fun getting out and playing goal for the majority of the time. And then those occasional times that you do play out, it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you played AAA in high school hockey growing up. So you started off playing in AAA with the New Jersey Titans before going to Red Bank Catholic. So like, what was it like growing up in those organizations and having a chance to eventually find your path leading up to juniors?
Well, the Titans was a really good experience for me. Red Bank Catholic was a fantastic experience. The Titans are obviously like a big name now in
Yeah.
junior hockey and in youth hockey in New Jersey. When I played for them, kind of they were big, but they were kind of they were coming up. They hadn't really made the name they have now for themselves. So I was with them for a while. I think 9 to 16, I was with them. So 7 years. And then I went to Red Bank Catholic, and that was a really, really good experience. Met a lot of lifelong friends there. I actually have one friend coming down this weekend to see me play in Columbus, who I met, Scott Bellata, who I met at Red Bank Catholic. So that was just a fantastic experience. And, I get to play some fairly high level hockey. I mean, high school hockey's not always the most high level, especially depending on what state you're in. But I mean, we were Red Bank Catholic. We won my senior year. We won our conference. We won the inaugural short conference championship, and we had a really good team. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, so like what do you learn, like develop throughout like those like 7 years or so that you're in AAA for the Titans organization? You're just staying there, so you're comfortable with being around like teammates and all that, and like you
Mhm.
guys pretty much grow up together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you spend 6 years, 7 years with one organization like that, you see a lot of the same faces every day. You see a lot of the same players, coaches, all that. So, but that's, the first time I kind of got real goalie coaching. Because before that, I really had just kind of been winging it. If you ever watch me play now, I play more of like a stand-up hybrid type
Yeah.
style. And I, think that just came from I got a goalie coach at a bit of a later age than most kids. Like a lot of kids, they start goalie at 6 or 7. They have a goalie coach immediately. Like I didn't have that, so I was just watching Mike Richter and Martin Brodeur, whoever was on TV. I was just
Yeah.
trying to mimic them. So that was definitely good. Playing with the high level organization helped me get some good coaching too.
Yeah, and like that's what like a lot of the kids, like they'll have goalie coaches like right away, but like when you don't have goalie coaches, like I think you learn a lot more of just because you don't have that coach to like really help you develop, and you just have to like use different resources like YouTube, how-to videos, just watching guys on TV, like when you go to games, like watch the goalies. Like that's what I did. And like I didn't have a goalie coach all the way till I was 18. I'm 21 right now. So but like just having a goalie coach, like after having all those resources, like you just put everything together, and like the goalie coach also like helps you develop even further than you were before.
No, I agree. I think there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
I think the pro is that, like you said, it kind of makes you learn your body and learn what you like to do, and kind of, it definitely builds some mental toughness. I think the con to it is that some people look down upon, not look down, but maybe um, are a little hesitant to accept a style that's not like cookie
Yeah.
cutter butterfly. Like in my experience in my career, with certain teams, I'm not going to go into names and stuff, but coaches would be like, "Oh, well, what's that style?" And I'm not really sure if that's what we're looking for. So I think it's definitely good in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but I think having that polished look is definitely a benefit too. Whether that's the way it should be or shouldn't be, that's a different conversation. I
Yeah.
think the most important thing is whether you stop the puck or not.
Yeah.
And my coach here in Columbus, Coach Jerome, he shares that same opinion. Like he's very just like, stop the puck, and that's the most important thing, which is really good, I think.
Yeah, I think that's like the main thing too, because if you're gonna win games, like you have to stop the puck and help give the team a chance to win. If you're gonna do that, like no matter what style you're playing, if you're gonna do that, like if you get a win, you get a win.
100%. If you can make it consistent,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like if somebody comes to me and says, I have a kid here, he has an unorthodox style, but he's winning games at every level, he's putting up good numbers at every level, why would I not take a look because I don't like his style? I mean, to me, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is just, if you can perform consistently, I think that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into Red Bank a little bit here, like do you think like your overall high school experience really like gelled you together and like really helped you develop into that goaltender that you were going into junior hockey?
Absolutely. Yeah. Going to Red Bank Catholic was, I think, one of the best decisions I've ever made, as far as like a life decision goes. I was hesitant to go there at first because anyone who's from New Jersey knows there's a school called Christian Brothers Academy, CBA. They win the state championship like almost every year, and I was thinking about going to that school, but I really just like the feel of Red Bank Catholic a lot more. It had girls and boys. CBA didn't. CBA just had boys, so that was a
Yeah.
factor. And I just kind of liked the vibe better in the school, so I went to Red Bank Catholic. But I really didn't know anybody when I initially went there, so it was I had to kind of make friends, and the hockey team was really competitive. But once I got into it, I mean, it was the best decision I ever made. I mean, winning the championship our senior year, I got some personal accolades that year. Made first team all shore conference, all that stuff. I mean, that was kind of the first time I really got like notoriety for
Yeah.
being a goalie and all that. And I think that kind of gave me some confidence going into juniors for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So like what was it like winning that conference championship and just like living all the like the good memories that you have? Because when you think about like high school hockey, like those are some of the glory days that everyone talks about at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, winning that was amazing. And one reason it was because my junior year in high school, we were, I think, 6-15, and we didn't even make playoffs. So our senior year, we came out, we were like 21. I want to say 21, 2-3. I mean, we were undefeated in our conference. We were state ranked. I mean, the group of guys we had, and we didn't get
Yeah.
anybody new in. We just, we've lost people, if anything. So we just kind
Yeah.
of turned it around. That was just such a great experience. I mean, even now playing professionally, I still think back on that experience. Like my buddy who's coming into town tonight, he was on the team with us. And I can bet you that over the course of this weekend, at some point, we will talk about playing in that tournament and just winning
Yeah.
and that team. I mean, that's just a lifelong experience you never forget.
Yeah, that's unreal and great experiences that'll last a lifetime, like you said. But then after high school, you begin your journey through junior hockey, where you played 1 year in the USPHL Empire for the Philadelphia Revolution, playing in 21 games. Like, what was the process like to sign in the USPHL Empire for the Revolution?
Well, the GM of the Revolution, he's actually still a GM to this day, Chris Canale. He has been my goalie coach pretty much my entire career. And he was my goalie coach prior to me being at the Revolution. Even though I was with the Titans, I used to go to him for
Yeah.
goalie coaching. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come out and play for us, play for the Revolution?" So I went out and I made the team. And there was, I forget if it was an injury or a personal reason, one of the goalies, um, the older goalie who was on my team, couldn't play the beginning of the season, and I just kind of ran with the position, and I had a really good year that year. So
Yeah, so like what was that adjustment like going from like high school to the USPHL? Because I'm guessing that's a pretty huge jump from from high school hockey.
100%. I mean, even from going from U16s, I was going from U16 national and high school to juniors. It was, and the Empire, which is not around anymore, but I mean that was a really good league. I mean there was guys going to the NCAA out of that league, and it was quote unquote a junior B league. So that's a pretty impressive thing.
Yeah.
But it was it was a good league, man. I mean we played some really good teams. I think that was when I kind of realize like how serious you have to take it if you really want to move up and stay with this. Like you have to be consistent every game. You really have to put in the work outside of the rink. And after that season, I remember in the springtime, so right after that season ended, I really said, okay, I really got to start tweaking things and actually having an off-season approach where I say, okay,
Yeah.
you know what, I want to work on this. I'm going to go work on it. I'm going to take X amount of time and I'm going to try and improve this. So it was definitely a good learning experience.
Yeah. So would you say like that's like the biggest thing you learned throughout like all the different takeaways you took from your first year is just how serious you have to be and like you have to like start tweaking everything during the off season? Like what are some of the other things that you took away from that year as well?
I'd say that was one of the biggest things. I mean, I also just kind of took in like, wow, there's some great hockey players out here, because I remember playing against some teams and there was just, like I said, I mean, hearing it now, like junior B, you might think like, oh, whatever. But like, I was 17 playing junior hockey at the time. This is back in 2013. So this is totally different world than we're in now as far as junior hockey goes. And but yeah, I'd say the biggest thing, like you always have to look to get better. Like every summer, every off season, you have to think, okay, what am I going to work on this summer? If you're just kind of showing up at the rink and taking shots, it's obviously not going to hurt you, but it's also, well, it could hurt you if you're building bad habits. But I think the biggest thing is you just have to have an agenda every summer. And even if it's one thing, it doesn't have to be like a laundry list of things.
Yeah.
Like if it's the one thing, like, okay, I'm going to get better at my angles this summer. I'm going to get better at my depth this summer. I'm going to get better at playing the puck. Like if you just do that every summer over the course of a couple of years, you will get better over time.
Yeah, so like you would go into the offseason and just have like one or two things or however couple things that you want to work on, just like focus on those during the skates and making sure you're doing everything right from there.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say the year right after my first year of junior, so the year you're referring to, I kind of was like, you know what? I was like, I got to start polishing myself up a little bit, because now I was starting to get looked at by colleges,
Yeah.
and the comments were starting to be made like, okay, well, I don't know, stand up, the style, all that stuff. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I could either just kind of say, you know what, I don't care what people say, or I can kind of try and just add stuff in. If it's more pleasing to the eye and it helps me, then why not? So there was a lot of work done that off season
Yeah.
on just like polishing, trying to make some more butterflies. And I think it helped me, because then now I think I kind of can play both styles. So
Yeah, absolutely. So then the following year you go back to 18U AAA. So like what was it? What was the reason to go back, or was it just like a development standpoint, just like trying to polish everything up that you've learned from that first year in juniors?
yeah, so I was still with the Revolution, and I believe that they had a junior team still, a junior B team. They had a
Yeah.
junior A, obviously, but they said we're going to do this U18 AAA team, and obviously, age-wise, I was still eligible. And after talking it over, I was able to maintain like the same core group of players, the same
Yeah.
coach, and I said, you know what? I said U18 AAA. We were a showcase team only, so we actually didn't play in a league. We just went to showcase tournaments. Played exhibition games. I mean, we played top two, played the Chicago Mission. We played
Yeah.
all top teams across the country. But I think that was the right move, because it gave me good exposure to colleges, as opposed to junior B. Was good and definitely got me exposure. But I mean, this was like you would go to one trip we went to Western Michigan. We played in Western Michigan's arena. Their whole coaching staff was there watching. We went to Miami of Ohio. Their entire coaching staff was there watching. So it just got you in front of the best coaches in the country, which I think was, a good experience.
Yeah, for sure. And like that great experience, like it's a great opportunity to go out there and perform. Like, did you feel like any of the pressure from that, or were you just like, I'm gonna go out there, play my game, and just keep it simple and not overthink about like all the scouts and different schools looking at you?
Well, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't think about it because, like, I remember one game. I think it was Western Michigan. We were in Miami of Ohio, but there was a school there looking at me before the game, and the nerves are there. Obviously, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
18 years old, like you're a young kid, and it's just like it's if in my opinion, when things like that are present in your mind, if you try to act like they're not there, that just makes it worse because they're
Yeah.
there. So I think I think acknowledging them and kind of accepting them and be like, okay, look, this school is looking at me. There is a lot of pressure riding on this game. Kind of practicing like that acceptance, I think is good because once you accept it, then you can kind of forget about it. But if you're like fighting against it and kind of like, oh, I can't let myself feel the pressure, like that just isn't a recipe for success, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you're just trying to find like the balance of just not getting the pressure, let it get to you, but also recognizing that it's there and you just got to go out there and perform, and they'll be looking at you.
Yeah, and I mean, even like today, like playing, minor pro now, like I'm playing in front of 2, 3, 4,000 people pretty much every
Yeah.
night, and and the crowds are big and they're loud, and but one thing I've learned over time is like, at this point I don't even think about it because I'm experienced. But I mean,
Yeah.
the beginning stages, like when you're in college, you play in front of a big crowd. I think the first big crowd I ever played in front of was, well, in that Shore Conference tournament that we won, we had like 1,500 people, but for the big game. But in college, we played. When I was at Newman, we played Utica, and they have like 3,500 to 4,000 people a game.
Wow.
For NCAA D3 college. Like that's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
I remember I got put into a game. Our starter, my sophomore year, my first year there, our starter got pulled, and I got put in like a 5-0 game. And I remember going in, I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. But once you get to minor pro, it starts to happen every day. Eventually you're just like, okay, you know what? This is just another day. Yeah. People are here watching. That's what they're supposed to do. It's hockey. And,
Yeah.
and now it's something I look forward to. Like when I see like it's a big crowd, like now I actually get like excited. So it's, over time you get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Then going into your second year of juniors here a little bit, you played for the Philadelphia Revolution, where you played 17 games, and then you went into the following year where you got traded to the Connecticut Oilers in the EHL, where you got to play in 16 games and 2 playoff games. Like, what were those final 2 seasons of juniors like, and just being able to make a name for yourself and have like different colleges like on your radar?
It was definitely a memorable 2 years. Playing juniors in the Revolution. I mean, they were some of the most intense games because, like you said, like you're trying to make a college team, you're trying to impress people. So every weekend's a big weekend. My experience with the Revolution was good. Unfortunately, my last year, my age out year, I got hurt. I sprained my ankle. Actually, coming down the stairs of my apartment, I slipped on the welcome mat, and I actually it was like the stupidest thing. Like I was going to Wawa, just like not doing anything bad, and I just slipped and I actually sprained it really bad, and I was out for about a month. This is my age out year now. So I'm like, wow, like, I've been talking to schools and then they kind of stopped talking to me because I was hurt, and that's just how it goes. So when I returned from injury, I kind of lost my position to injury, unfortunately. So I was like, look, like if you're not going to play me, then I need to go somewhere where I'm going to play. So I asked for a trade, and I got traded to the Oilers, and that was a really, really good experience.
Yeah, so then you come in like a fresh start, like from like the injury, and like you get to just start fresh, start a new opportunities. Like, what do you do to take that opportunity to the next level and just be able to find schools looking for you like Kings or Newman?
Well, I mean, once again, pressure was definitely there. I mean, you're an age out. So like if you don't do it now, that's it as far as college hockey goes. And I made the decision to go to Kings because they were a fresh start. They had no prior history. It was their inaugural season. And I was, really excited to kind of be a part of that. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity. Unfortunately, we just didn't have that good of a team. Went 0-25 my freshman year, and wasn't the ideal inaugural Las Vegas Golden Knights type first season, which is very rare. But it was just not necessarily what I was looking for. So then I made the switch to Newman my sophomore year.
Yeah, so then you commit to Kings, like you said, and you get to play in 4 games. Like, what were those first 4 games? Like, I know you guys went 0-25, so obviously not the greatest, but like just getting those college games in and just being able to gain the necessary experience to move on after that year.
No, I mean, it was definitely a great experience. It was funny. My first start was actually against Newman. So my first start for Kings was against Newman. We lost a tight game. And then, I played against some other teams. We were unfortunately just overwhelmed. I mean, our conference was Utica, Elmira, Manhattanville, Nazareth. I mean, there's a lot of really good schools, and our out-of-conference schedule was very good too. We played a lot of SUNY schools. So for a first-year program, I mean, it was a battle. Like, it was tough. But I'll tell you what, the one thing I did take away, being on an 0-25 team, you learn how to cope with losing. And listen, I mean, you learn a lot from winning, but you learn way more from losing. And when you're on an 0-25 team, obviously if you have bad habits, it could be a really bad thing. But at the same time, if you keep your good habits and just kind of don't let it knock you down, let it keep go through it. I mean, it ended up being something that I think made me a stronger person, because sitting here today, I haven't been on an 0-25 team since. And it's definitely made me, like, when we lose a couple games, it's kind of like, okay, you know what, we'll get back to it. We'll move on. We'll get through this. So it kind of shows you, if you take it the right way, that things can get better,
Yeah, it's like, what's like your mindset and like the team's mindset when you're 0-25, and like I'm sure like everyone's like disappointed with losing, obviously, but like you learn how to you learn to cope with those losses and just be able to grow as not only a person but as a team as well, and just be able to just, because I'm sure even though you guys were losing, like everyone was still motivated to like keep going and keep playing and just do it for the boys. It's like, what was that mindset like, and just being able to continue to push through?
It was definitely challenging. I mean, like you said, like, we definitely didn't quit. Like, nobody was necessarily mailing it in, maybe towards the end a little bit. But I mean, the beginning, like, we had some really close games too. It's not like we were losing every game 7-0. I mean, but it was just, you kind of just had to, like, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. And I like to think that I kind of stuck with it. And, once again, 0-25 team, not a lot of fun, not a lot of winning, not a lot of smiling, a lot of bag skates. Endured a lot of, we had 6 a.m. practices at Kings. So we endured a lot of 6 a.m. bag skates. But like I said, I mean, and I'm not the only one who went on to have a good playing career after that. I mean, there were several guys that transferred schools and then went on to have good, like, minor pro careers. So it didn't like ruin anybody who wanted to continue playing.
Yeah, for sure. So then you go transfer to Newman University, where you played your final 2 years there. It's like, what was that transfer like, and getting that fresh start at Newman?
It was a great feeling. I didn't know if I was going to get another opportunity, because coming off an 0-25 team, didn't play that many games at Kings. Just on paper, it was a tough sell to make to other schools. Like, and I knew I was good enough, but, to them, it was like, what are we working with here? So, in that sense, it was really difficult. And I just kept reaching out to schools. And then Newman finally gave me a chance. They were like, okay, let's bring you in. And it was just such a relieving feeling, because it was like 3 months of reaching out. And when you get nothing back, it can be very defeating. But then, once I got that opportunity with Newman, it was fantastic. I mean, I went there and, I had a pretty good stint there.
Yeah. So like, what's the importance of just like reaching out to teams? Because like, even like for me, like going pro next year, hopefully, like you always hear you got to be your biggest advocate for yourself, and just like reach out to coaches and like make them know that you want to come there. So like, what's the importance of that, and just being able to help yourself maybe get an opportunity compared to just sitting back and letting everything try to come up that way.
No, you're spot on. I mean, you have to be your biggest advocate. If you don't
Yeah.
believe in yourself, other people aren't going to believe in
Yeah.
you. And especially if you're in an underdog position, and you don't have a big resume and you don't have a bunch of other people telling people how good you are, it can be very difficult. So you have to just, have that confidence. And, even in the emails that I would send to schools, when I would end up talking to the coaches, whether it was on a visit or in person, I would look at them and I'd say, look, like, I understand that, my stats, the last year weren't the best or whatever, but, I can play. And if you give me a chance, I'll show you I can play. And if you kind of have that confidence, I think eventually you'll find the coach who is willing to give you an opportunity because, you know, we as goalies sometimes get in the mindset of like, oh my God, there's no spots,
Yeah.
because it's like there's there's two goalies, there's one net, right? So like and there's not like that many teams,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of opportunities, put it that way. So like if you just keep knocking, eventually you will get an opportunity if you're good enough and if you have the will and the
Yeah.
work.
For sure. And like you always hear it, you got to be the biggest advocate for yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one's gonna believe in yourself. So if you believe in
100%.
yourself, everyone's gonna believe in you and like what you can do because you're that much more confident. Like confidence drives everything.
100%. Yeah. And especially as a goalie, like a coach wants to see you with confidence. Like a
Yeah.
coach doesn't want to see a goalie that's not sure of himself. Like
Yeah.
that's not a position where you can be not confident. So, coaches can kind of read that off of you. And I think it can definitely work as a big asset if you do carry around that confidence with you.
Yeah, exactly. And like going into your first year of Newman here, you played 15 games, going 5, 6, and 2. It's like, what was that first year like for you, and really getting, because that's 15 games that you didn't play the year before. So like,
Mhm.
what was it like just developing, especially like when you have like a better structured team in front of you?
It was definitely relieving, to say the least. Like, not, having, a team that, put up goals and all that.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was kind of in my mind been like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. Like I hadn't really had that opportunity the year before, and Newman, we had our struggles. Don't get me wrong, but we were definitely a better hockey team than Kings was that year, and it was nice. It was kind of helped me gain my confidence back and gain that swagger back of like, okay, I can.
Yeah.
Because at the time I didn't win a hockey game in over a year when I was at Kings. So as a goalie, that starts to wear in your head. And
Yeah.
the first couple games at Newman, we lost. And I remember thinking, like, is this just going to last forever? Like, am I never going to, like, you start to think that. And I remember my first win at Newman, we beat um, Anna Maria College, and it was like 6-1 or 5-1 with like 5 minutes left to go in the third. And in my head, I will never forget this feeling. I was in my head, I was like, oh, we got to get through it. Like, we're not done, because I hadn't won in so long. So in my mind, I was like, we got to get through this. Like, we'll, make sure we close it out. Like, thinking like it's not even physically possible for them to come back
Yeah.
in this game right now. But it's just like, it kind of definitely playing at Newman restored my faith in being a goalie and the position itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So then the following year you played in 6 games where you also like start to think about going professional and all that. So like did that like get in your head, like just like or were you just like worrying about like that season, then if anything comes, like it'll come after the season?
Well, I definitely thought about professional hockey going into that year. And I kind of told myself, like, we'll see when the right opportunity proposes itself. And we'll also see how Newman goes. Unfortunately, my sophomore year, we did not make playoffs at Newman. And then my junior year, we started the season off not too well. We were like 1-5 or 1-6, and I had some professional opportunities, so people were reaching out to me. So in my mind, I was like, you know what, I think this is a good time to take the opportunity. Plus, in my mind at the time, I was 23, or 24. And in my mind, I was like, you know what, it's better off that I go now when I'm 23, 24 than wait till I'm 25, 26 to start my professional career. Because at that point, you're that much older. You're that much less sellable to a team. So I just thought, you know what, why not go get the experience now?
Yeah, exactly. And like you get that opportunity where after your senior year, you began like that quest to play pro hockey and you were able to sign with the Watertown Wolves. So like what was the process like to sign in Watertown?
So I have an agent who's also a very close friend of mine, Eric Swanek. He helped me. He kind of said, look, like these opportunities are here. I think Watertown was also a connection from another friend of mine. And they were like, look, they're looking for a goalie. They like you. They like what they see. I sent them some footage and they wanted to sign me. So I said, you know what, that's it. And let's do it. And then I left school. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, so you then start out in Watertown where you play 7 games going 3-3. So like what was it like getting that foot in the door and your first experiences with pro hockey?
It was my time in Watertown, although it was short because 2 months later COVID happened and then that shut everything down. But that was a really, really great experience. And, playing in front of like 2,000 people every night, going to the big arenas, just being paid to play, like all the things that I had never experienced before. They were really cool just till I was like, wow, like I didn't ever know if I was going to experience these type of things. And it was great. My time in Watertown was cut way too short, unfortunately, by COVID.
Yeah, so like you start in pro hockey. So like what's like your first moment where you're like, what is going on here? And like just like that like what the fuck moment.
Can we curse on this podcast? Are we allowed to?
Go for it.
Okay, I'll try to keep it clean, but now that's a lot of pressure because hockey players, we do curse a lot, so sometimes it just comes flying out. But I'd say my first big moment was actually it was with the Macon Mayhem. If I'm going to be completely honest, it was just an SPHL team that I also played for. That was actually my first ever. So I signed with. Here's what happened. I signed with Watertown out of college, and then I got to Watertown. I practiced with the team, and Macon reached out to my agent. Was like, "Hey, we want to bring him in." Before I even had a chance to play a game with Watertown. So technically I was on Watertown first, but my first pro action was actually with Macon. And I remember I got put in into a game. The goalie who started got pulled. And I remember going in that this was, we were in Fayetteville. So this is like 3,000 people at least. And maybe more actually. And I remember they scored. I made a couple really nice saves, and I remember just like making the saves and just being like, "Wow!" Like I'm playing pro hockey. Like this is like in the moment you're actually thinking like, "Wow, this is cool." And then I remember they scored a goal on me, and it was like a 7-1 game that made it like 8-1. They scored, and the horn went off, and they had a jumbotron, and like the movie Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Where Chuck Norris like gives a thumbs up when they're with the judges part.
Yeah.
They had that GIF playing on loop with the caption Chuck Norris approves, and they just had him giving the thumbs up, just like giving the thumbs up because they scored a goal, and they had like this crazy goal horn, and I just remember like laughing to myself. I was like, wow, like this is. Like I'm not happy I got scored on, but like this is kind of cool. Like to be part, like to be on the ice for like and to be part of this,
Yeah, that's a crazy moment because it's 7-1, and then they score and make 8-1. Just Chuck Norris is saying, "I approve of that goal," and it's probably stuck in your head now. Like whenever you think about it, and whenever you think about it now.
I have not watched Dodgeball since. I refuse to watch it. Just kidding, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But like, what was it like to get that first SPHL call up? Like, even though it was like fast how it happened with Watertown, then going to Macon. But like, what was it like getting that first call up to the SP?
It was great. I think one thing that it kind of showed me was that like you're in pro hockey now, and it's a little bit different than college. Like, because when you're in college, you're there to develop, and you're there for 3-4 years, however long you're in school for. And that's, you're there and they care about you and they care about your development as a person, a player. And you're like kind of a project, when you're in school.
Yeah.
Pro hockey is different, especially minor pro hockey, unless you're signed with an NHL team and you're a high round draft pick and they're really committed to you. But in minor pro, it's kind of like, what have you done for me lately? And that's the first real taste I got because I was called up with Macon, then I was sent back down to the Watertown Wolves. And I just remember kind of learning, like, okay, like this is like, you got to perform. Like, you're not just here to, oh, I'm here for 4 years, I'm going to develop over these 4 years and go to school. Like, this is a business now. Like, people are making money, and it kind of opened my eyes to how like different pro hockey is than any other type of hockey.
Yeah, so like, how do you take going when you do get sent down from Macon to Watertown again? Like, some got like, there's different ways to take it. Like, just people like you're pissed off and stuff like that, and then like, or there's some people that just go down there and say it's time to work again and just grind down there. It's like, what was your mindset like when that happened?
Well, I knew that it was going to be a fairly short stint just because the other goalie was hurt at the time. That's the reason that I got called up. So when I got called up, I knew in the back of my head, like, okay, you're going to be here, but there's probably a chance you're going to get sent back down regardless of how you play. I never really got a chance to start any games there, which I'm not going to get into that, right now, but that was, I was kind of promised I was going to, and then I wasn't. And that's just, once again, that was like, welcome to pro hockey. But once I got sent back down, in my mind, I wasn't discouraged or anything like that. I mean, it was just so early on in my career. Like, don't get me wrong, like, being a goalie, I think, is the hardest position in sports, just because there's so much that's out of your control. Like any other position, like, being a forward, being a defenseman, even playing other positions, like being a football player, being a linebacker, basketball, whatever, you can kind of go out there and forcefully go change the game. As a goalie, everything is reactive. So you're reacting to the game. So it's if bad bounces keep coming and the puck keeps bouncing in the net, you could be doing everything right and it's out of your control. Like, you don't have the capability like in football. If you're a linebacker, if you're, an offensive lineman, you can't just like kind of, okay, I'm going to get real gritty and pissed off now, and I'm going to hit this guy extra hard, and I'm going to run through this guy. Like in goaltending, you don't, like, that's not the mental psyche. Like, you have to just kind of keep your emotions even keeled. And for that reason, I think it's very, very difficult of a position.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And like, you just gotta stay even keel, because like, once like your emotions gets too high or too low, like that's when like things start happening that shouldn't happen. Like, you give up some soft goals, like you're just not as focused in the game. Like, that could change the game completely.
100%. I mean, I'm sure Jack, like as a goalie, like there's times where, if your emotions are in a bad spot, like it genuinely affects the way you play, because so much of goaltending is mental, like the reads and everything. Like it's not that physical of a position. Like, people think it's very physical. Obviously, you have to be flexible, you have to be explosive. But I mean, if there's any position in sports that's like 85-90% mental, it's goaltending, because you could be in the best shape in the world and you could have the biggest, strongest body and the quickest lateral movement, but if you mentally can't read the plays and get in the right position and control your emotions, it doesn't matter at all. Like, you'll let up goals. So
absolutely. And like, when I was younger, like just starting with the position, like you'd give up 6 goals one game, then you'd be like, oh, like what happened that, like, if that thought comes into your head in the next game, and then what do you think's going to happen? You're going to give up 6-7 goals. But like, you got to learn to control like what goes in and out of your mind throughout that time. Sometimes you can't even control that, but like, just to keep everything in check and keep everything even keel.
no, you're right. You can't control what goes in and out of your mind, because that's just like thoughts. They come and go. But you can control, in my opinion, what you spend time worrying about and what you spend time focusing on. And like there's games where you'll give up 5 or 6, and the next game, before the game, when I was younger, this would happen all the time. You'd be like, oh, here we go. Here comes 5, because that's just the position. And that's because you feel like there's so much that's out of your control. But what you realize as you get older is that game where you let up 5 or 6 has absolutely nothing to do with this game that you're about to play. The players are different. The day is different. It's just like, it has nothing. One has nothing to do with the other. Same goes the other way. You get a couple good wins in a row, then you just think like when you're younger, at least you think like, oh, I'm on autopilot. Like I'm never gonna lose. Like there's that feeling. It's such an odd position. But at the same time, you can't let that high like make you not work. You have to keep working. You have to treat every game like, okay, we have to go out and earn this. So that's just stuff you learn as you get older.
Yeah, every game's a restart, refresh. Just you got to go in there with a new mindset and just not think about the game before. Short-term memory.
100%, man. That's what it's all about. That's the name of the game for goaltending.
Yeah, absolutely. So then the following year was the COVID year. So you didn't play. So like, what were you doing throughout that time, and just being it, just resting? Like, what were some of the things that you did during that year?
Well, I was actually planning on playing that year because I was traded from Watertown to the Danville Dashers, who used to be an FPHL team. They're not
Yeah.
anymore, and Danville ended up not playing. I think only 3 or 4 teams in the Fed played that year. The year of COVID.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a team to play for because my team wasn't playing. So I pretty much, I was training up until like October when we found out that news. So the summer, I was pretty much like, oh, like I'm playing pro hockey this fall. Then that didn't happen, and I did a lot of work with goalie coaching, which is my job back home. I run a goalie school called Goalie IQ, and we do private lessons, camps, different off-ice workouts, stuff like that. And at the time, I didn't have that school itself. It was kind of just me doing some lessons. And, over time, I kind of built that up. That I really used that year to build up my experience as a coach. I even coached some tournament teams and got some good coaching under my resume. So it ended up actually being a really productive year.
Yeah, and like throughout like that, like going into goalie coaching, like you learn a lot from coaching the other kids that you're coaching, and just to put into your game as well, because like you're on the ice and you're just doing everything you learn or and then teaching the other kids, and then you could even learn from some of the kids, and it's
100%.
just a never ending cycle. It's just like comes full circle.
Jack, 100%. I can't tell you how much better of a goalie I am since becoming a goalie coach, because you're out there every day and you're talking to kids and you're teaching them things, but you're also refreshing your own brain. Like, okay, you have to have your outside, you have to be square, you have to have depth or angles before depth, you have to have your hands out, you have to track with your eyes. Like, there's a million things that you go over every single day that over time, when you get on the ice, you feel like you've been through goalie coaching too. So I think I think that's been a very, very valuable asset for sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a refresh from what you've learned and putting it back into your mind. Like that's only going to help you to get better.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So then coming into this year, you end up signing in Delaware for the Delaware Thunder. So like, what was the process like from going like from not playing last year to signing with the Delaware Thunder this year?
Well, it was obviously exciting to sign with Delaware because I hadn't played hockey in a year and I didn't know if that was going to happen. I forget exactly how the Delaware connection was made, but they reached out to me and they said, we heard that because Danville folded, and for some reason I was not in the expansion draft or the whatever they called it, the draft or the dispersal draft, excuse me.
Yeah.
I wasn't in that for some reason. So nobody had claimed me, and Delaware had reached out to me. And it just so happened that when I was with Watertown, the 3 wins I had that short time I was there, 2 of them were against Delaware. So I was 2-0 against Delaware. So their owner reached out to me. He's like, well, I remember you. You're a good goalie. So, and then he was like, okay, we'd like to sign you and bring you in. So once again, like, it's, you go through some trials and tribulations with, catching a bad bounce with COVID and the year not happening. And then somebody kind of puts a leap of faith in you. It's a really good kind of refreshing feeling.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, what was the season like for you in Delaware when you were with Delaware? Because even though like things didn't like go your guys' way, like just from having Babs on the podcast, like he said, like the group's a great group of guys and it's not like a losing team. Like everyone's there to work and put in the work, and it's not like, and like you can see their success now and how they've been going on the upward trend as well.
Yeah, I mean, We split the weekend with them 2 weeks ago, and then I think they lost to Carolina by a goal last night, and they lost. They beat Watertown in a shootout, and then they've been very, very, very competitive.
Yeah.
They've gotten some new players in. Coach Lou Santini's returned, which has helped the team a lot. But no, I mean Babs is spot on. I mean, me and Babs are still close, even though we're not together anymore in a team. But that team, I mean, some of the most fun I've ever had playing hockey. I mean, from October when I got there until January when I ended up with Columbus, like it was so much fun. I mean, that team was just a great group. We all had each other's backs. I mean, we came close to winning so many times, but once again, COVID, not to blame everything on COVID, but COVID sucks. So I'm kind of going to blame everything on it, but it deserves it because it was hard to field a pro hockey team in the beginning of this past season because you couldn't have Euros. All the college kids took another year for the most part. So they took the red shirts so that we didn't have like kids coming out of college. And a lot of guys retired because of the COVID, the actual COVID year. So it was very difficult to field a team. And then the SPHL, I mean, there was a big shortage of minor pro players. I think the statistic was like out of 150 or 160 play, I forget exactly what the number was, but pretty much the entire Fed was in the SP to start the year, or at least a good portion of it. So that made it very difficult for small market teams like Delaware to really field a successful team. But once again, trials and tribulations, they make you stronger. I know that Babs learned a lot this year, which he's done a great job. I know I learned a lot myself. But obviously being in Columbus is just a little bit better.
Yeah, so then you get traded to the Columbus River Dragons where you are now. And I believe you have 3 wins there so far. So like,
Correct,
what's your time been like in Columbus? Because I've also heard nothing but good things about Columbus, and like the weather's not bad either.
No, honestly, Jack, I mean, it was pretty crazy how I ended up here. So I asked for my release from Delaware because, like I said, it wasn't, exactly a good spot for me at the time. But I was like, you know what? I said, I'm going to ask for my release. I'm going to try and latch on with another team. Sure enough, the Binghamton Black Bears claimed me off of waivers within like a couple hours of me being released. So I'm like, oh, great. So I drive to Binghamton. I don't know if you know this story. You probably don't. I drive to Binghamton, get there, put my stuff in the locker room, get all ready for practice. Wake up the next day, I'm in Binghamton still, and they're like, yeah, so Port Huron actually claimed you because they have priority because they're lower in the standing. So Binghamton had jumped the gun and claimed me too early. So now I'm like, oh, Michigan. Okay. So I'm packing my stuff up. I'm packing my car. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I'm driving home to New Jersey to like prep for Michigan. And I get a call from Columbus, Georgia. And I didn't have Jeff Krupp, our owner's number at the time. So I just saw Columbus, Georgia on my phone. I was like, there's a Fed team there. I was like, I should pick this phone call up. I was like, let me just it could be spam, but I was like, let me pick it up. So I picked it up and it was Jeff Krupp. He's like, yeah, we traded for you. So I was like, okay. So I was technically on 4 teams in about 24 hours, which was a little nuts and, a little exhausting. But no, I mean, Columbus, to answer your question, I mean, Columbus is fantastic. The organization, top to bottom professional. We're treated really well. The arena is great. Our facility, just everything from equipment manager to our fans to our travel. I mean, I really don't have a bad word to say about the organization. Our living situation is great. Yeah, it's really they do. Jeff and Jerome, our coach, they really do a good job of just making it like a top shelf professional experience. So very, very happy here so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just like that also brings up a funny story because when you're in Binghamton, because I was in Binghamton for a free agent camp that same week that same day that you got called to Binghamton.
That's right. That camp was that was the same day I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, because we practiced with the team for like 3 or 4 skates. And then I was reading on the transactions on the Fed site, and it's Mike Cosentino signed to Binghamton Black Bears, and I was like, that just brought up a funny story because like I was right there, and like they already had 3 goalies at the time too, so it was like a
Correct.
whole
Yeah.
mess with goalies as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I had Liskowitz, who's still there. Forget the other kid's
They
name.
had
And
Mackenzie
then
Chalmers and
Chalmers. Yeah. Chalmers.
Brody
Yeah. And then
Michelucci.
yeah. Right. Right. So yeah, it was a little nuts. But that's funny. Yeah, I remember like the guys were saying that that was going on. And the funniest thing about Binghamton was that it's a pretty funny story. So my first game with Delaware this year, or not my first game, but one of our first games was Binghamton's first home game of the year. So it was their home opener.
Yeah.
So we're in that building. It's like 5,000 people, sold out crowd. Long story short, we lose. I didn't start the game. I backed up, and one of their players, Tyler Becker, who I became friends with now, kind of took a cheap shot at one of my buddies, and he was running his mouth a lot. And I was just so mad. So after the game, I got off the bench, and I went up to him, and gave him some choice words, like, "Oh, you're a loser," all that. And he pushed me, and we actually fought after the game right aside the bench in front of this entire like crowd. And I was like, oh, this is nuts. Fast forward to when I get to Binghamton, I go in, I unpack my stuff. They're like, yeah, there's an apartment number, blah, blah, blah. I open the door, and who's there? Tyler Becker.
Tyler
He was my
Becker.
room. They roomed us together. So that was like, and of course, in typical hockey fashion, I mean, it was the most. I was like, oh, what's up, man? We laughed about it, and then we had dinner, and it was like it never even happened. So it goes to show you, like, how how much respect guys have for each other, off the rink or outside the rink. But that was, it caught me a little off guard for sure.
Yeah, I remember Becker. He's a good guy when in my short term in Binghamton, but like it's just funny
Yeah.
how like you have those like moments where you fight someone or dust up with someone, and then like you're on the same team, and like it's nothing but like respect, and like you guys just dab each other up and laugh about it.
100%, because that's part of the game, and
Yeah.
that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and like you hear from all these so many tough guys that like their biggest like toughest guy that they fought, like they dab up after, and it's just like it's not like nothing happens, like go have a beer after the game with them, and it just shows like
100%.
how good the sport is, and like how good of a sportsmanship everyone has for each other.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, Jack. My roommate Justin Schmidt. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He leads all the pro hockey and
Yeah.
fights right now. I mean, he's a bad dude on the ice, and by bad I mean like a tough, not like bad. And you know, I remember when I moved here, they were like, "Yeah, you're living with Schmidt," and I was like, "Oh," because like in my mind, I had heard that he's like this killer, this like big fighter,
Yeah.
and I get here, and he's the nicest guy in the world. I mean, like, just a great guy, brightens your day every day. I mean, he couldn't be like a more respectful and nice guy. So it's funny how like the on ice personas don't always match
Yeah.
up to the off ice ones.
Yeah, because I also had Joe Pace on the podcast, and he
Yeah.
talks about him and Schmitty going at it all the time, and like they're nothing but respect and like good buddies off the ice.
Oh, 100%. If they hang out off the ice all the time, but then every time they play against each other, they beat each other's faces in. So that's hockey, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I want to get into this really quick, since you are like a part of a 3 goalie system right now with Jared
Mhm.
Rutledge, Bailey McBurney, and yourself. So like, what's the important, or like what's it like being a part of a rotating goalie system with like the 3 of you guys there, and like like what is the importance of just having like that close like group that you guys do?
It's very important when you have 3 goalies, in my opinion. I mean, it's important when you have 2 goalies, but it's
Yeah.
really important when you have 3 goalies that they all get along and that they all respect each other. And fortunately, we do have that here in Columbus. Both Bailey and Jared, both great guys, been nothing but respectful and kind to welcoming me in. But it's definitely competitive. I mean, there's one net, right? So like everybody
Yeah.
wants to play, and pretty much every one of us has seen time on the ice and then time off the ice, and But it's competitive, and I think it's good for everybody at the end of the day because it pushes you a little bit harder. Because once again, like if there's an extra goalie out there, everyone's working that much harder
Yeah.
because they know that people are gunning for playing time, and everybody wants to play, obviously. But no, it's and Jared obviously has had a very illustrious career. Playing pro hockey, different places, playing really good junior hockey, and Bailey as well. So it's good. I think we have a really, really good goalie core here.
Yeah, and like you said, like there's one net, but like you're just competing for that net. And, like I think it helps everyone, not even just goalies, but like the entire team to help to keep pushing harder because you're fighting for spots, and so are the other guys. They're fighting for their spots as well.
100%. I think there's pros and cons to having like extra players on the
Yeah,
ice. Um, but I think one of the biggest pros of it, whether you're talking D forwards or goalies, is if there's extra players, that means those guys, it's everybody's pushing everybody. When you have the bare minimum, sometimes guys, in my opinion, can get kind of content. And at any level of hockey, I'm not just talking about pro, but when you bring in that extra guy, and it's not necessarily good to look at it this way, but when you bring in somebody, they can kind of act as that
yeah,
spark to get the whole team really just competing.
yeah, absolutely. It's like what do you learn from Bailey and Jared that help you in your game, and then like vice versa as well?
Well, it's actually a great question because all three of us play very different styles.
Yeah,
Bailey, I would say, plays kind of a hybrid. I'd say I'm a little less hybrid, more stand up, kind of like, like if this is butterfly and this is stand up, I think Bailey's kind of right in the middle. I think he does
yeah,
maybe even a little bit more towards butterfly. I think I'm more towards stand up. And Jared is very butterfly oriented, which is, once again, nothing wrong with any style. I think it's actually good on a team to have different
yeah,
style goalies because it challenges your shooters in practice more to be able to score on any type of goalie. But I think just one of the biggest things is like, especially from Jared, because Jared's an older guy. He's been in the league, not older guy, but he's older than I am. And just, the way that, him and Bailey carry themselves. I mean, they're both professionals. And, I just think, being on the ice and being able to compete against them every day is valuable in itself.
yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. An awesome thing to learn from, because you learn stuff from like kids when you're coaching them, learn stuff from your goalie partners, players. Like
100%.
there, you always learn something new. Like you go every day with learning at least something that you didn't know the day before.
100%. And even if it's something minor, like if I'm not doing something in my game and I can't quite figure it out, sometimes you're watching another goalie. Sometimes I'll put
Yeah,
on the NHL network and I'll watch and I'll be like, okay. And then I'll be like, oh, wait, my hands aren't out. You can do the same thing with your goalie partner in practice. Like you can look and be like, oh, what's he doing? That maybe I'm not doing or something. And just using that visual, because if you always just stay in your own head and try to figure things out in your own as a goalie, it can be very difficult. I think one of the biggest things that I do as a goalie is I try to watch a lot of hockey. Like I
yeah,
always watch NHL goalies. I always try to keep up on different goalies, and I think that's helped me in my career because I'm a pretty visual learner. And I used to watch Henrik Lundqvist every single night when he was with the Rangers, and I learned a lot from him. Unfortunately, he's not in the league anymore. But I think for young kids, I think watching hockey is a very, very important thing.
yeah, absolutely. And like this brings up like a story. Like my favorite teams, like the AHL Chicago Wolves, and like we have like Alex Line is our goalie here, and like I've read something that like you have to be obsessed with like the position of goaltending and obsessed with hockey. Like just he watches hockey all day. It says in there, and like you just find like different ways to like separate yourself from others and just learn from like anyone that's playing the position or even just playing the game. Is just being obsessed with your position, like what you're and the craft that you're trying to pursue.
100%, man. 100%. Like even not that it's good to get overly caught up in statistics.
Yeah,
But I mean, I think it's good to look at shooting percentages. I think it's good to look at like where shooters are most lethal, where they're most lethal from, like what, angling and different stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I teach back home is about how to just always put yourself in the highest percentage spot to make the save.
Yeah.
Because if you do that consistently, you'll stop the most pucks. If you're putting yourself in bad, low percentage spots, like you'll get the occasional great save, but it's not going to be that frequent. So, it's a numbers game when it comes down to it. If you just kind of always put yourself in the best position possible, you'll be pretty successful as a goalie.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And like Mike, I have a few more questions for you before we wrap things up here. So, do you have any tips for goaltenders looking to get to that next level, whether it be like AAA to high school to juniors, junior college, college pro?
Yeah, I'd say two things. The most important thing I think is don't get discouraged when things go down, because as quickly as they go down, they come right back up. And like I said, the position of goaltending is very. I'll kind of tie this on to one thing. The position of goaltending is very, like I said, some stuff is out of your control. Like you're going to be on bad teams. It's going to happen. You're going to let up 5-6 goals a game on those bad teams. It's hockey. But if you let that discourage you, then that will be the end, and then you won't progress. But if you just keep working hard and you keep getting better and you keep sticking with it, over time, you'll get on a good team, you'll find a good spot, and you'll get that good opportunity. And even if it's within yourself, even if you're just struggling with your game, I mean, the only way to get better is to keep going. Nobody gets better by quitting, So I think for any goalie who's just struggling or maybe going through a tough time. I even have some kids back home that I coach that have reached out to me and been like, yeah, like this isn't really going well. I'm thinking of quitting. I'm like, look, if you quit, then you're assuring yourself that it's never going to get better. Right. Yeah. So like if you keep working, even though it might be tough and you might not want to, and you might be losing every game right now, like eventually you will get to a good place.
Yeah, I love that tip. And like just there's no good in like quitting. Like it's gonna get better. And like if you just keep putting the work in and keep trusting the process, like it will get better.
100%.
Yeah. So then my next question is like, what's your game day routine? Like, especially like when you have a home game, like what's your game day routine?
I always like this question because it's pretty simple for me to answer, but I'm not a big superstition guy, but I'm a pretty big routine guy, if that makes sense. Like I don't believe in superstitions. Like I have to, wear my hat like a certain, like like little meaningless things. But I think routine for your body is really important. I prefer not to morning skate. That's just me. I do a lot of the time though, just so that we have two goalies out there. But whether you do or don't, my meal's always the same. Usually I'll have something light in the morning, like eggs or something. And then for lunch, my lunch is pretty much always the same. I'll make, I'm Italian, so I like to cook. I'll make a nice pasta, usually like a pasta bolognese or something with some meat in it. And then I go and I eat that at probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm pretty religious with that. I like to, and that's the last thing that I eat up until game time. Like I cannot, on game days, I can't eat 3-4 hours, but it has to really be before. And then I like to take a nap and usually grab a coffee, head to the rink, and just stretch the same way, drink the same stuff. Stuff that keeps your body in a routine is important. But as far as superstitions, I'm really not. I'm probably in the minority there, because most goalies definitely, I think, are superstitious people, but I'm definitely not one of them.
Yeah, those are some great routines that you have to go through, and like whatever you gotta do to get the body ready, like that's all that matters when it comes down to it. And then when you gotta perform, like you gotta perform.
100%, man. 100%.
So then my next question is like, what's your favorite pump up song? Like you're listening to this like in the gym when you're lifting, like listening to this before games. Like what are you listening to?
Well, it definitely varies. With music, I listen to everything. Like I don't really have like a go-to genre. But lately, what I have been listening to pretty frequently is AJR. They're like a rock kind of pop group, but their music is just like really good vibes, and their lyrics are really good too. And I don't know, I just kind of really like their music. And ever since the start of the season with Delaware, I've been listening to a lot of AJR.
Yeah, that's a great genre, great artist song. Like whatever like gets you going, like that's what you got to listen to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have two viewer Q&A questions. So the first viewer Q&A question is like, what's your least favorite and favorite building to play in?
In this league,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's a bit of a cop out to say my home arena, which is my favorite. That is my favorite. Columbus, obviously. I'd say my favorite, but I'll answer it as if we're just doing aways. I'd say my least favorite arena to play in is probably Danbury. And the reason for that is not that it's a bad arena, it's just that their crowd is just relentless. And it actually is fun, but just the whole road trip up there is really far from Columbus, and the locker rooms aren't the best, and they kind of Danbury does a very good job of making it an unpleasant experience for
Yeah.
you as a visitor, which is, you know what, honestly, like, why not, like, but but that's always like a rough road trip going up there. I'd say my favorite place to play is away is definitely Binghamton. I mean, it's just a great arena. The staff is great. They give you big locker rooms. They even have a net cam, which takes pictures. I took a pretty funny one
You
of me.
saw the waving.
Oh yeah, I saw my
I did see
Instagram.
that
So
one. Yeah.
yeah, so that, I mean, it's just so professional there. That it's really fun. Their crowd's always great and loud, and it's a fun place to play.
Yeah, nothing better than a loud, fun crowd, and just like it brings the energy for everyone up, everyone that's on the ice. Like the energy gets raised another bar at that point.
Absolutely, man, for sure.
Yeah. So then the final viewer Q&A question. She says you'll know the answer to this. So who would eat 30 bag lunches?
So that's makes me laugh. So that's my buddy JC Moritz, who's definitely a follower of your show. He That's a quote from Billy Madison. I don't know if you remember that when the kids are all at lunch and the lady goes, "Who would eat 30 bag lunches?" And the bus driver, I think it's Chris Farley, is the bus driver in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And they're
It's
sitting
ringing
there.
a bell now.
Yeah, they're sitting there eating the lunches. So the meaning behind that line is, in Delaware, me and JC, we went to Newman together, we would always quote like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, and that was one of my favorite things. That was one of our favorite
Yeah.
lines to quote, because it just, it doesn't really have like a specific meaning, but like when you're on the ice with a close friend, and he skates by the crease and just says it, and it makes you laugh mid practice. I mean, that's just like the most fun.
Yeah, that's unreal. And just like anything that gets you laughing, like gets you in a good state instead of like getting like mad or anything. Like you just gotta have fun out there.
100%, man. I found I'm playing my best hockey when I'm having a good time. So I think that's also important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to end this thing off. So Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck going forward with the rest of the season. And I look forward to following your career the rest of the way.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate you having me on, and I would definitely be happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll definitely be on again for sure.
Awesome, man. Awesome.